Dr. Jazz.
I just wanted to ask you first in the beginning. I listened to the Cookers album, Lookout, and it sounds fantastic. And there was also footage on the YouTube, that you guys did, I think, in May this year at the Falcon.
Okay.
And the group is burning. And
yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, how did, I know you played with those guys a little bit together already in the 70s, but how did you guys hook up as a unit like in 2010?
Well, like as you mentioned, we all played together. I played with either one or two of them in another group or something, and some played in my group. So we kind of just felt natural about getting together,
Yeah. Yeah. But how do you see the development of this group, like, since the first album you guys made? And it actually sounds like, well, it's a unit, right? That's the feeling I get.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I think with any group, I mean, the longer you play with them, everybody kind of gels together, and they know each other very well musically and so forth, and it comes off better,
Yeah, yeah. And it's also like a collective group, right? And you also wrote lots of music for this group, and I listened, like Destiny Is Yours, this beautiful 3/4, or Somalia, which is like, I mean, I know it goes back like it's with beautiful pentatonic lines and the groove. And I wanted to ask you, how is, I mean, you've written so much music through the time, and what's your story usually there? How you start? Are you like a writer who just composer who, on a daily basis, you have snippets or sketches, or like, how is your process there?
Well, usually I kind of try to wait until something comes, and it just comes, and then I write the whole thing. But if I get an idea, I might get a good idea, and I'll just write that idea down. And it's not the whole song, but then I'll come back later and try to develop it,
Yeah, yeah. How do you write? Like usually on piano or just?
Yeah, usually by piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I have the melody usually in my head, so I sing it, and then I see what kind of chords I'm going to use with it,
Yeah. Well, when you present the music to the group, are you like a guy who then also changes stuff, revisions stuff, or just like usually?
Well, I don't usually have to change anything, but if it changes, I'll change it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be the one changing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, I've done these talks with now, I think more than 170 musicians. Some of my heroes and so many musicians you played with, and I just wanted to ask, like how was it for you? You were born and raised in Houston, right? Yeah. And what was that first record? This is, I mean, I always love to hear that.
The first recording?
Yeah, like the first record that you saw jazz-wise or heard, like in the late 50s, I guess. What was the one that kind of blew your mind?
Well, my uncle was also a jazz fan, so I heard. Well, I mean, I think he wanted to play us something in high school. He was in high school with Kenny Dorham, and but he stopped playing or something, and so he had me listening very early. Wow. So I was listening to Kenny Dorham and to Horace Silver and the guys,
Yeah.
Miles popped in there somewhere.
Yeah, and where does Coltrane, for instance, come into this equation? What was that? You remember that?
Let's see. I think that probably happened from listening to Miles.
Miles.
Training with Miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you ever see like When did you move to New York in 1966, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how was this arrival for you to New York, and what triggered it?
Well, I always had in my head that I'm going to be in New York. I have to go to New York, and it was just a matter of figuring out when. And I was in Dallas, so just one day I just jumped up and said, "Hey, I'm going now." I had a car, and so I just jumped in it. Came up with a friend with me also, but it was a long drive, and I was. But I didn't have any place. I didn't have any place to stay in New York. I got here, and man, I thought, wait. I know Diddy Moffitt. That's Charles Moffitt. We called him Diddy. Diddy in Texas. Yeah, and he was the only one I knew in New York. So I called him, and he had me come over and stay at his house.
And how did you then progress to make connections? Who were the first people who, like? I mean, I know who you played like later, but how was this beginning stage for you when you came?
I think I jumped right into it. I went right. I wanted to play with Blakey, so I probably jumped in there and tried to sit in right away with Blakey.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So he had a gig, and you just came to the gig, or?
Oh yeah, right. I think they were at the Village Gate or something, and I just came to the gig and wanted to sit in. So yeah, once I sat in, then I was in.
Yeah,
it was good.
And you
started, I did walk around and try to sit in with other groups before then, just to, I guess, get known or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then you stayed with Art for 2 years, right?
Yeah, and I went back every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was he like as a band leader, like, to you guys? I mean,
well, he was sort of like an institution, a school. Yeah. So it was almost like I've graduated and I'm now in the Blakey School, the Art Blakey School. Yeah. So, and I always thought of him as, seemed like he was older, but he wasn't that old, So I was just coming through the Art Blakey School, and that's something I had to do for myself, and it was cool, and everything went fine.
Yeah. And how does I've read that also, like, this early 70s. I mean, I have the record Lift Every Voice and Sing, with Max, but Max Roach. But
yeah,
I know there was a story in between with Elvin also.
Oh yeah.
How did but you weren't part of his group, right? Or you were? Because I didn't understand that when I read one interview.
I think. Let me see. I don't think if I did, I wasn't there very long. I went to sit in with Elvin. And he already had his formed group, but I would just sit in. He kind of liked me. I liked him, of course. I wanted to play, and and I just sat in with his group a lot,
Yeah.
And it seemed natural, So whenever his players, his saxophonist wasn't there, I was there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And and then I mentioned Max Roach, going through school of Art Blakey. You mentioned, how was the school of Max Roach then? I mean,
I
listened to Joshua that you guys play, and on that record, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and it's incredible how the energy you guys had together.
Yeah.
How do you remember that?
Well, I always remember Max as a. It seems like all the younger musicians were seeing Max as the test maker for time, because we were going to play play some fast tunes, I mean, yeah, and everybody kind of, I guess, kind of feared him because of the tempos and stuff like that. But I was happy to do it, ready.
Yeah. You remember the first gig with Max? How was that?
Let's see. The first gig. I don't remember exactly what was first, but I probably played a whole gig with him and his whole group. So probably his saxophonist was there too, and I played anyway. Yeah. So everybody, we liked each other and everything was cool. I mean, I wasn't trying to push the saxophonist out, but
Sure.
yeah, we all played together, so it was good.
Sure. Did Art and I mean, I know you did Capra Black, your debut in '73, right?
Yeah.
And it's, the tunes there like New Breed and Sir Galahad. I transcribed years ago. I already tried to transcribe, the heads and stuff. I love doing that. And did Max, for instance, encourage you to become a band leader, or how did your story with band leading happen? Actually, like how did that begin?
Well, I mean, I think it was just a natural development. It's more like once you get popular enough in the jazz world, then you can also add gigs, which means you're going to add things with your own group, and it sort of happened like that. I started getting extra gigs myself, and then developing to my own group.
How did that group come together? Like, I mean, it's like when I look at the lineups and that album, it's incredible, Like
the Max group,
like your first record, Capra Black, like with George Cables and Jimmy Owens. Like, was this like your working group at the time, or?
Well, that's the group I envisioned having.
Yeah.
The Cables had to be on piano, and that's my pianist in my head. And so I just put them together to do the album. And then every opportunity we had to play together, then we did. I think Jimmy Owens was probably busy.
Yeah.
So he didn't stay around, but Cables, we stayed together a long time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, with the Cookers still also, it's incredible.
Oh yeah, right.
You guys,
we always
50 years actually.
Oh wow, yeah, been a while.
Yeah.
But it felt natural to play with George Cables.
Yeah.
And so sometimes maybe he was going to play with a big name like Max or somebody else, and kind of drew me in there too, and developed like that.
Yeah, it's like, when was it with this group, or I mean later? You did so many records, those Live in Europe ones.
Oh yeah.
How was your first experience when going to Europe in '70s as a band leader? When was that? And
as a leader or as a sideman?
As a leader.
I think by then I was really ready to lead the group, and it was fine. I think I went to. I had a little tour there or something.
Yeah.
And since I had the guys that I really wanted in the group, everything was fine.
Yeah.
Went well. Yeah.
And as a sideman, when was it the first time you came to Europe?
To Europe, that was like, might have been with Blakey.
With Blakey? Wow, man.
Might have been, yeah.
Wow, man. You remember those experiences? Like, because, now when we tour, it's kind of easy. There are no borders, one currency. There you had like the Eastern Bloc, liras in Italy, Deutschmarks in Germany. Like, how was that first experience?
I had to do that. I had to make the changes of each difference in the money, and it was all exciting though. For young musicians from the States, that was all sort of an exciting part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I also wanted to ask you about your story with Gil Evans. He also fits in the equation, this early '70s.
Yeah.
How did you meet Gil, actually?
It was funny because we just met on the street. I was, let's see. I think somewhere near Broadway and 52nd or 50 something street, you know.
Yeah.
I just ran into him on the street, man. I said, "Hey, Gil." Yeah, hey, man. Well, good to meet you. I'm Billy Harper and so and so and so.
Oh, wow.
And introduced myself. And he was very friendly. A lot of the musicians were not. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gil was fine.
And how did you guys, how was he then, like, you know, as a writer and as a leader of his projects to you guys? I mean, what was your experience with him? What did you learn, like, from him?
Oh, well, he was really self-effacing. He was not a you know, an ego Gil. I thought most of the leaders were like leaders. He was not like a leader. You know, he was, I don't know, withdrawn, quiet, kind of, you know, not like you know, Blakey or Max would be. And you know, they were like leaders.
Yeah.
And Gil was withdrawn and you know, kind of quiet and you know, it seemed like in that group, I remember when I got there, Howard Johnson was also there. You
Really?
know Howard?
Yeah, sure, of course. Oh man.
Yeah, Howard was seemed like Howard was more like the leader or something. Yeah.
Wow. And but you mentioned you know, Art and Max. If you compare all these drummers,
Oh yeah.
I mean, how was it for you time-wise playing with them also as a musician, you know,
that was just
rhythm-wise? Because each one of them is like their own world, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you
Well, you know,
describe this? Like, how did you feel like when playing this different
oh yeah, I can
stories?
try to give you an idea of what it's like. But you know, in college, I was practicing almost all day or something. Sometimes skipping classes and practices. And then when I got tired, I would play drums. So yeah.
Okay.
So
That
so I
explains
had
a lot.
yeah, right. I had a connection with drummers for sure. I mean, easy. It seemed like with Max, it was going to be, well, Max was sort of how do you say, defined, let's see, strictly defined, a strictly defined kind of player. Blakey was a driver.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well,
yeah. Yeah, and I dug it both. I also played with drummers in Texas who they loved Max and Blakey. So I had a drummer who played like Blakey and you know, another one who played like Max. So I was ready.
Yeah, that's incredible. What about Elvin? If you think about Elvin, like, you know, because he's, you know.
Yeah, I didn't have a drummer who played like Elvin.
Yeah, true.
But Elvin, yeah, I dug that feeling, man. I as I said, when I got tired of playing sax, I'd jump on the drum, but I'd be playing something like Elvin, you know. And so I dug that feeling for sure. And it seemed like it was very easy for them to play with me also.
Yeah.
Because I was messing around with drums and I knew their style and felt it was part of my feeling. Yeah.
Language. Yeah.
Yeah, right. My language. That's good.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way you find it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I always, when I listened to your playing, you had that spirit going on of I don't know, this certain vibe that when you play, when you blow, it's just like it's carrying on something. I don't know how to just put it in words actually, but yeah.
I think that it seemed to me that at those times I was focused and it would be almost like getting into a trance. Yeah. So once we start the music and we're into it, I'm completely into that music. So it's gonna fit. Everything's gonna fit. Things good, you know. And it was great, man.
Yeah. It's I mean, when I look at some of the records I have you on at home, like so much was done, you know, with Woody Shaw and you know, you did that last session with Lee Morgan and Randy Weston and
Yeah.
Like these early 70s. How was it like for you personally? How did you cope with all that schedule-wise? How did that look like? You
Well,
know.
you know, in New York, I mean, it's almost like New York is the port of the musicians, and they go out and play, basically. I mean, some things are happening in New York too, but not the way you think. It's not like I'm gonna come to New York and that's where everything is happening. Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
No. Even the big names were not necessarily busy in New York. They'd have to go to Europe or somewhere else and end up in Japan or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So that was a great thing for me too, because I was traveling, and at the same time I wasn't thinking of it, but I was getting worldwide recognition being in those other places.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it was fine. It was great. And you know, when it was time for me to do or ask to bring my group, yeah, because they'd heard me with Max or Blakey. You know.
Yeah. Were you immediately comfortable in the role of being a band leader? I mean, you've done so many records as a collaborator or sideman.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah. No, it was easy for me because I was always a band leader. I mean, in high school, all the way from high school up, I still had my bands, and I had the bands who sounded like either Art Blakey or Max.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Otherwise, Billy, I mentioned Lee Morgan also, and you did that kind of final studio album with Lee, and
yeah.
with Reggie and all these guys, Gretchen and Harold Maber on piano, like.
Oh yeah.
Can you maybe describe that session? Like, how was it with Lee?
Well, I think it seemed like there was a lot of anticipation about making this great album. Everybody thought of it as it's going to be a great album, and it was going to be, of course. I think Harold Mabern and Lee and the other guys had played together already, and it was just a matter of me sort of fitting in, which I could do anyway, because I heard I could I played a little bit like Harold sometimes if I sat at the piano, and I played a little bit like Elvin or somebody like that. Yeah, so yeah, it was fine. It was a great collaboration, and they drew me in there because I fit easily.
Oh sure,
I was always preparing for it anyway. So
yeah. But if I also wanted to ask you just like this, I did this talk with Fred Hirsch also, who was a part of your groups in the 70s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think what happened is around that time I had an offer to tour in Europe or something, and so I had been practicing. We'd been practicing with Fred, and I didn't know he was necessarily going to be in the group, but we needed to go to Europe, so he was ready and he was there. So, and from that particular time, he kind of stayed a little close to the group, after coming back from Europe.
Yeah. Like speaking of piano players, I also want I have listened to the other day to The Journey by McCoy. Speaking of Coltrane before mentioning, and when was the first time you played with McCoy? Actually, was it already in the 70s or?
Yeah, I think he was, but McCoy was sitting in with Blakey. McCoy had not. I mean, it was the time that there was a time that he wasn't playing with Coltrane, and he was playing with Blakey. So I was in the group with Blakey, and that's where we really got together.
Yeah. How was when you talk to any pianist, McCoy is on the top. And how was it like playing with McCoy for you? I mean, since
it was great, and it felt well. I mean, when you're coming up and you're listening to a particular kind of group with particular players.
Yeah.
Most of the groups I was listening to had McCoy in it, and that's the way I heard. Also, I heard I perceived the music that way in the sound.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great playing with McCoy. And later I got when I got my group together, Francesca Tanksley also played.
Yeah.
She heard and understood the McCoy idea also. So, yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Like you played with McCoy and Elvin, both of them.
Yeah.
Did the guys ever talk about like Coltrane, like when you before, after gigs, or not really?
No.
Never really?
Did.
Oh wow, really? Oh wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, they never did.
And you never asked also, like, or?
No. I mean, let's see. No. I didn't even ask.
Yeah. It was already there, yeah. Otherwise, Billy, I wanted to ask you for you did the new record now with the Cookers, and are you still writing at this time music now, or what's in your musical idea now brewing right now for the future?
Well, usually I just wait until something comes.
Yeah.
And even if I'm not working, I'll write that down so that I can get back to that idea.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that. So I have a lot of ideas, some ideas written down, and if it's needed, we need to do something, I'll develop it further, and we got it.
Yeah. But are you thinking like of recording something again under your name, or?
No, I wasn't thinking that way, but I mean, if it pops up, I will do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Well, would be fun to hear you again, another record under your name. Would be so beautiful.
I guess I should work toward doing that, I suppose. But I mean, I've been easily working, with the Cookers and other people. So I wasn't thinking of making a way for me to
sure. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Cool, Billy. Okay, I will not take more of your time then. So
it's okay. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear some of these thoughts. You've played some of with the greatest jazz musicians in the world, including, and you've done so many records that are now classics considered. And
well, I mean, I was able to fulfill my dream before coming to New York. I certainly wanted to. I had to play with, and it was mainly drummers in my head, but the pianists were playing with those drummers. McCoy was playing with, the drummers with Elvin and so forth. So I got a chance to fulfill the entire dream. But like I said, I had a group in Texas that sounded sort of like those guys too, because everybody that I was with loved Train, loved Blakey, and loved McCoy. So yeah, we were ready.
Yeah, you sounded ready. I mean, come on, the first records you did, it's incredible what you play on there. I mean, it's really, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I had a chance to get there and do it. When I got to New York, one of the main places where the musicians were playing was a place called Slugs. You ever heard of Slugs?
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
So I would go to Slugs every night. I mean, with all any of the groups that were playing there, and listen and try to sit in. And somewhere along the line, I was able to sit in with McCoy there, and then at the same time, they got a chance to hear me and know that they kind of let me in after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's hard to break in. It was hard to break in.
Yeah, definitely. I can believe. Yeah, I mean, but then it was quickly. Yeah, you became part of those players, and
right.
Yeah, it's like I just one more question. Like, coming to New York in 1966 and being part of this scene for more than 55 years now, actually.
I didn't know that.
How do you see this development now of New York when you look at it musically, jazz-wise, from your perspective?
I think it seems that New York is a place that has more developed original players who develop their original styles. I think eventually they all come to New York. And I was always, like I said, aimed toward New York and toward Blakey and Max, and ready for them by the time I got here. So it just happened that okay, the door opened, and it was a gig with Max. Yeah, well, I mean, I had to sit in first, and then they decide. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool, Billy. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing some of these thoughts. So appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem.
So
Good.
Cool. I will leave you a nice Saturday afternoon. So
Well, I don't mind talking about some of that stuff. I might have left out some things that are pretty important anyway. So
yeah.
I said that Gil was very nice and open.
Yeah.
Not hard and cold. Like some of the musicians I was trying to meet. I said, "Hello, Mr. So and so," and he just kept walking. I mean, that was a usual style. But Gil, no, was very different.
Yeah, I love the stuff you did with Gil. I mean, that's considered as some of the classic repertoire now of jazz.
Yeah.
Flamingos Fly and those records. It's beautiful.
He was very, very a sensitive musician who he just had he'd be thinking and get little ideas and just jot down a little bit, just a little, not a whole. Seemed like he didn't write a whole thing at one time, but just a little, and it's more like coloring, the way Gil would color or something.
Yeah. His voicing's also how he always orchestrated, man. That's so beautiful.
Oh yeah, really.
And the horns and everything. That's such a master.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever ask him about musical advice, how he does stuff? Did you guys ever talk about music? I mean,
I did. I said, hey man, I'd like to study with you. Oh, I don't I don't teach. I don't, he wasn't into that at all. I mean, he didn't mind helping, but studying, he wasn't set up for a study, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I just had to, whatever I learned, I had to just listen to what he had already arranged and put together. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great. He was a great person and good to be around,
Yeah. Can believe
and he helped me get into the place where he was staying also at West Bath.
Ah, really?
Yeah. And so I was right there in the building with Gil. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Just to be around such a person. I mean, that's
that was great. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful.
Right.
Cool. Yeah.
Dr. Jazz.